Hello, everybody. It is me, the one, the only, everybody knows clearly. Uh, yeah, I'll shut up. It's me, Rick Algia, and today I will be reading to you. I shouldn't be doing it this one. Whatever. It doesn't matter. I will be reading to you the the demo, basically, of my story. To give you a basic idea, let me scroll down a bit. You'll understand. I could just probably control F it, but just let me do it my complicated way and then get it over with. Just, yep, reading up to chapter 3. And there's a little sneak peek if you want to read chapter 3. I'm not going to show you anything. Come on, Google Docs. Okay, it's breaking on me. I have to refresh the page. But yeah, I will be reading to you the first 3 chapters. Basically. Yes, Prologue. All I did was frickin' ignore one grammatical error. So, with that being said, take a look at all that we're going to read, because we're about to get started. Sure note, this might take a couple of videos, and I'm sorry for the shabby microphone. I know it's not the best, so that's why I have my fan off, and all other outside noises should be at least minimized. If you do hear a fan or a slight hum, that is my PC running. So, if none of that bothers you, and you are ready, then let's begin. Enough with this bull crap thing. Bull crap exposition. Let me lock the door. And now let's begin. I will be reading with voices, so please pardon any offense I might give by reading in a female voice, because I'll try, but don't judge me too harshly. Alright. A Journey of a Lifetime, A New World and Temples Within. Fun little author thing about the title. I wasn't really thinking whenever I wrote the title. In fact, this main title right here, I was told that I probably should change it to The Journey of a Lifetime. But I stick with A Journey of a Lifetime just because it sounded better. And you might be noticing these outlines here. They don't really matter. But these were what remained after me discovering how to control Enter. So, if this bothers you, I'm just going to remove these. That way, it shouldn't bother you anymore. Alright? There's the same thing, but only with my name, Rick Rogia, right there. Be advised, the following story may not be appropriate for all ages, as the intended age group is teenage through young adult. Some scenes of the story depict detailed injuries, dismemberment, blood, burns, broken bones, and more. If you are uncomfortable with any of these, don't read this story. All characters in the story are purely fictional, and any relevance to anyone alive or dead is purely unintentional. If at any time you feel uncomfortable reading the story, do not hesitate to take a break. And finally, no matter how much you yell at the character, do not do something. Please remember that he cannot hear you, and if you're upset with the events in the story, try not to punch a hole in the wall, as I will not pay you for the wall's damage. Thank you for reading this, and enjoy the story. Now, quick message. I don't think with the chapters we're about to read, it's going to have any of that. But, that's just basis for the entire story. In dedication to my best friends, my family, and all those who have supported me during this little journey. I thank you with this story. Funny thing is that the real journey of a lifetime here was me writing this. Ha ha ha. Alright, let's get started. Prologue. My name is Damon Williams. I am 17 years old and my life is already hell. Well, look, before we continue, this is probably the only, you guys can see. This is probably the only part that I kept from the original journal draft. But anyway, let's just continue. You see, not too long ago, there was a rumor going around, and apparently this rumor was so bad that it made my best and only friends leave me. I'm a high school student at a school with no name, not because people were lazy, but because it had been forgotten to time, and the people who once knew the school's name are now most likely dead, leaving the school nameless. That's an author's way of saying I was too lazy to think of a name. Anyway, the rumor that has spread around is unknown to me, so you can probably understand the confusion I had when my friends just left me. It's not that I'm upset that they did leave, just confused and a bit shocked. Usually I would know if I had done something to upset them. I read this thing like 3 times, and every time I read this beginning part, I always added something. Like this part, I added. So, I have 2 friends, both male. One of them is named Carson. He has black hair that reaches to his neck, that is taken care of pretty well, usually straight, dark green eyes, light skin, and he usually wears whatever he can find, so it usually ends up a mixed match. And even though he doesn't look like it, he's actually really nice, but he doesn't want other people to know that. I never really understood it, but I just rolled with it. Another thing I never really understood was how Carson was a fanatic when it came to art. Literally, you can show him a piece of historical art from anywhere on this planet, and he could give you the time period that it was painted, who painted it, and his opinion on it. It's bizarre that we even became friends in the first place, because I have no interest in art at all. And no interest in art. All I do in our conversations is just try to keep up. Just pardon that little bit of uncommon work there. Maybe I should just keep a tally of how many grammar mistakes I have. Let's just continue. My other friend has a name, but he never told me. Now, there's a reason why I never gave him a name. He used a fake name most of the time, and it was constantly changing, so I just ended up calling him Jack, because that was the name he gave me when we first met. He only answered to that name around us, but at least I had something I could call him by, or at least I thought. I never really paid attention to his looks because he always hid his skin, usually with the coat for his body, and I don't really know how he covers up his face, but because most of the time it just is, but he somehow does cover his face. I write these sort of invocative sort of sentences, so that way I can get the reader to think. I know that that's not really a good idea whenever it comes to storytelling, but that's how I do it. I enjoy having that option for people, so that way they can, if they want, fill in the blanks. Anyway, it doesn't really bother me because he's a nice person, and pretty clever as well. He rarely speaks, though, and the few times he does speak, it's normally about something important or insightful. I learned a way to communicate with him using simple head gestures, nodding or shaking, and only yes or no questions, which limits our conversations, but still he was pleasant to hang around. It was also weird how we became friends. I can't really recall it at the moment, but I knew from the get-go that he was odd. It was really odd, the way that comment was like that. But that didn't stop me from talking to him. I was pretty odd as well. My entire loner attitude. So I guess I would just be hypocritical if I were to judge him on that. And now, scene change. I awoke to the sound of my alarms blaring high-pitched beeps. coming from the other side of my room. Despite it being Sunday, I wake up at 3 a.m. just to wake up before the stars start to set. You see, I've always been interested in astronomy, and I found that stars help me deal with the day ahead. I'm not depressed if that's what you're thinking. I just sometimes find it difficult to even care about what's going to happen most of the time. Not depressed. So having something to care about helps me with the day ahead. I got out of bed, half asleep, and walked over to my alarm to turn it off, gently with my pointer finger. I live in a small apartment complex where the floors of the building determine the quality of the room. There are 8 floors to this building. The first floor is usually only used for bathrooms and staff lounges, but sometimes we get the homeless people being taken care of by the charity program. The second floor is for people who don't make much money or students who don't want to waste too much money. Usually the rooms are small and cramped, and to be honest, I would take those rooms, but my dad insists that I get a spacious room. The third floor is for people who don't make much more money, but make at least enough to pay for better rooms. Usually a little less cramped, but only by a few extra feet, which doesn't really change anything. Yeah. Landowners, apartment builders, looking at you. I live on the 4th floor for people who make an average amount of money. The rooms are still pretty small, but you can get... There's nothing to worry about. But you can get used to them over time, and I certainly got used to mine. The last few floors are mainly for people who make a lot more money than the other tenants, usually doctors or lawyers or some other high-paying career, or the owner who lives on the top 8th floor. I don't go up there often enough to really care about the nitty-gritty of those rooms, though I never really understood why they would want a room in a cheap apartment complex, because if they had the money for it, why not just buy a house? It never really made sense to me why someone with money would bother wasting it on a cheap room. My room isn't big in comparison to the rooms upstairs, and I'm glad for that because I enjoy my small room. Having a bigger one is just inconvenient, and it takes longer to clean. I don't live with my parents anymore because my dad said I need to be more independent and make my own living while I can, just like he did when he was my age. Of course, my mom argued with him about it. At first, I refused to do as he said because I was still in high school. I was not ready for what the life had to bring. But my dad is really persistent, and eventually I had enough, so I packed my things and left. That was 2 years ago. A much more peaceful time for me. Things have gotten worse in those times. My dad got sick, very sick, but he's still alive. But he's in a hospital out of state right now, and every day I feel a little bit more disconnected with him. I stared at my alarm clock. It's pretty old-fashioned, probably made around the 70s. It was mainly black, except for the digital display, which was red. I was given this alarm clock from my grandmother on my mom's side for my 15th birthday. And even though it's probably older than me, it still works perfectly, sometimes too perfectly. The clock read 3:04 a.m., presumably. I still had about 2 hours before the sun rose, according to past experiences. I'm not saying it would take exactly 2 hours, but that's what usually happens. I resisted the urge to go back to sleep, and instead went towards the closet to change my clothes. I decided to wear some jeans and a red long-sleeve T-shirt, and started to head out. My room was very simple. I have a bed by the door, and my alarm clock across from my bed on a small table. And by the table was the closet, which was just a simple door that had room for clothes. And while I don't have many pieces of clothing, I still enjoy changing every once in a while, to at least look decent. I think I only have like 5 sets of clothes though. I also had a calendar by the door. And by far, the most useless piece of information goes to... I checked the calendar right by the door on my way out. My calendar was homemade by me. How did I make it? Simple. I just used 12 pieces of paper, stapled them together, and wrote the dates on each paper. I do not recommend actually doing that. It does not work. It does work if you have like photographic memory of every single month. It was semi-accurate with a few dates off, but it didn't really matter, so I taped it to the wall. All those calendar makers out there are afraid of this man, guys. Just they recommend not listening to whatever he says. The calendar had marks on it showing my days have passed. I marked it every day when I got ready to sleep, and the day ahead of the last mark is the current day, like how calendars work, which is March 3rd, 2032. A few more years and it's 2077. The buggy year. I left my room and entered the apartment hallway with doors separated every few dozen meters, each door having a number dedicated to it. Mine was 467, a random number that has almost no significance, because the number on the fourth and below, because numbers on the fourth and below are usually just random. For instance, the room next to mine was 445. At least I kept the first number accurate. I'm sorry if I repeat myself. I don't try to. I just have a slight bit of dyslexia. It's not to where it's bad. It's just sometimes I read the same sentence over and over again. I will try to keep that in check. I live in the middle of the hallway on the left side because that was the only room available at the time. But I've learned to make the most of it. It's not too far from the staircase, and I usually can avoid most of the crowd when I leave my room. I walked towards the end of the hallway where the staircase was, and went down a few flights to the apartment's bathroom, turning on the lights as I went down. Once I reached the bottom floor, I went to the only bathroom that is publicly available to the other tenants on the first few floors. The people on the 5th floor or higher have their own showers, which made me a bit envious of the higher floors. But that's really the only thing I regret about being on a lower floor. And besides, I don't have the heart to ask my parents for money to live on a higher floor. Things are tough as they are. I entered the bathroom and flicked on the light to reveal a single toilet and a sink with a mirror above it. I stared at myself in the mirror above the sink and saw my bed hair. That was absolutely insane. I don't mind it too much, but I do prefer to keep it in check. I looked at my light brown, almost blonde hair, which reached my ears, and grayish blue eyes. I was also considered to be rather thin for my age. Yes. And my skin is light, almost tan, but a little lighter. And I have a little scar on my left shoulder, which was small, but still very visible, as the scar was deep in my shoulder, and the purple outline made it more visible. It stung a bit, but not too much. I like to mention that the scar has a reason. It's not just there, I swear. I'm going to read a few more pages. I'll read up to here. I grabbed the brush and began to brush my bed hair, just to make it a little bit less crazy. Then I brushed my teeth with one of the disposable toothbrushes that I brought with me in my pocket. I would have brought a real toothbrush, but then I would have to deal with finding a place for it. Seeing myself in the mirror is a bit weird for me. I was always told I have my mother's blue eyes and my dad's stern look. But whenever I saw myself, all I could think is, what am I going to do with my life? For us, same. I never really put much thought into it because before. I really just float in the current of life without a care. But I really should start thinking. Graduation's only a year away, and I still haven't put the thought into what I want to do. Never really had the I want to be a phase. My childhood wasn't really the typical kind of childhood you'd expect from someone like me to have. I went back up the set of stairs to my room. I checked the clock on the way in. The time read 3:28 a.m. I quickly located my black shoes with white laces that were different from my bed shoes, which were actually just slippers, but I prefer to refer to them as bed shoes, because that's what my dad called them, and I got into the habit of referring to them as such. I don't actually call slippers bad shoes. That was just a little bit of character building for my character, so no one else knows. No one else knows because they would think I'm an idiot if I told them that. I put the shoes on and then left my room after locking my door, making sure I had my apartment key before I left, and then went down to the bottom of the floor again. There really isn't much anything else on the bottom floor to mention. Mail is usually just put into your room, but sometimes I like to get the mail before the staff because I prefer the staff not knowing about my mail, even though it's usually just some letters from my parents. But there were a few cases where I got some junk mail from some pornography site, which is odd since I don't have anything internet accessible. Usually I just end up with burning the junk mail and then continuing on with my day. I speculate that it might be from my neighbor, as I sometimes get this overwhelming smell of drugs from his apartment. Yeah, it's one of those places. I placed a few complaints, but they just say that they can't do anything unless it becomes a serious concern. So I just deal with it, knowing that some extremely high person is browsing the web and somehow managing to get me stuck with the spam mail. But it could be worse. At least the guy sometimes leaves the apartment, allowing me to breathe normal air again. I left the apartment complex and immediately felt the cold night air and the smell of wet grass. Outside the apartment complex is just a road that runs east and west. There isn't anything besides the apartment complex, besides the apartment for about 3 miles, and I usually get to school by walking or hitchhiking if I'm not feeling up for walking. And thankfully, people are nice here and don't try to get at me. And even if they did, I doubt they would be able to outsmart me. Some random teenager that has thoughts. Oh, what if I were to pull the car lock and tuck and roll? I've ran a few situations in my head in case people do try to do so. I crossed the road onto the grassy plain on the other side and continued walking for about a minute until I reached a hill. The top of the hill was my favorite spot because no one else comes here at the time. I'm alone with the stars. I walked to the top of the hill and sat to the peak and looked at the stars. And looked up at the stars. Thousands of stars filled a beautiful night sky. I found myself looking at the stars to be comforting because I've always been interested in space and other worlds since I was a little kid. And I've always been sort of immersed in them. But the one thing I liked better than space or stars were dimensions. Just thinking about alternate realities that we can't see or foods that we can only dream of tasting is fascinating. But the thing that gets me the most excited is the possibility of powers. It might sound childish, but really think about it. If there are an infinite amount of dimensions with an infinite number of possibilities, then there has to be one with powers. Maybe not the way we think a superpower is, but is still classified as one to us at least. I stared at the stars in all their glory for about 2 hours, just letting my mind wander about and ignoring everything else in the world. You'd think I'd get bored eventually, but no, the stars are really the only thing I need. When I got back, people were already awake, and unsurprisingly, I was starting to get tired again. I entered the apartment building and went to my room just to find a way to pass time until my job. I work at a gas station. Even though you have to be at least 21 to work there, I was given a pass and just told to lie if we have an inspection. But the downside of working there is I get paid 30% less, which brings me down to $2.80 an hour, or $98 a week, which is only enough for bills and food, and technically is slave labor. But this is going to look really good on my resume when the time comes. I work from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. just as a gas pumper, and sometimes as a stalker for goods. And even though people are able to pump gas by themselves, I made it easier and quicker, and sometimes people tip me. Usually not a lot, but at least enough to buy a bag of chips or something similar. But chips were my go-to. but chips were my go-to. Something about them just calmed me down to the point of bliss. Calmed me down to the point of bliss. Maybe it's just because I never really ate much junk food growing up. This was my daily routine on a weekend. And on weekdays, I just go to school and work from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. I enjoyed it a bit, even though it could be a bit tedious, at times.
This was 3 days ago.
I know, it's not meant to be read like that. It was just, I just wanted to do that. It is now March 6th. Yesterday is when the rumor arose without my knowledge, and today is when my life spiraled into madness. It started off normal. I woke up, got dressed, went downstairs to the bathroom, brushed my hair and teeth, and left. Watched the stars, and then went to school via walking at 6 a.m. The trip to school is about 10 miles to the north, but I usually go east, then go north. Then go north once I reach the city, which usually takes me about an hour, sometimes 2. And school starts at 8. The school isn't really interesting. Nothing really stands out. Standard sports team, standard classes, and a standard lunch, 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. The exterior was basic as basic goes, with white walls that had a few windows, and overall it didn't really have much shape. Sort of just looked like a giant rectangle in the middle of nowhere. The teachers are actually probably the best part of the school, despite the fact of the school being colorless. The teachers are very diverse, and to be honest, I like some of them. Some others, I just don't want to deal with. Oh, I don't want to deal with that either. Don't like those miniature cactuses. Let's try painophobia a second. I started to feel strange as I approached the school. I felt that if I were to enter, something bad might happen. Something that will have a permanent effect on me. I don't know why, but I just shrugged it off. Nothing that bad can happen here. Or at least I think. Except, of course, the idea of a shooter, or a bomb, or fire, or a raid, spontaneous combustion. But most of those things are highly unlikely to happen. And besides, I haven't garnered anything to deserve something bad. Yeah, sure, my science grade isn't the best, and I'm practically number 1 on the most pathetic list, but I don't think that deserves something terrible happening. I entered through the front doors into the study hall, an average room with no decoration. The walls were painted dark red, not blood red, but more rose red. Kind of the same, but I picture blood red to be a bit deeper than that. I would show you what I'm meaning by There were doors that led into different sections of the school. One was in front of me by a dozen feet, which led to the science hall. Then was the one to the left of me. That one was the math hall. And finally, the one to the right of me was the elective hall. And as electives go, nothing really exciting. I am really disappointed they don't have an astronomy class. Each door was handcrafted by the woodshop class, and to say the least, they are poorly made. If you were to poke it a little bit too hard, it would fall to the ground. What made it worse is that they really don't match with the walls. There weren't any students in the study hall yet, except for my friend Carson, who was just reading a book with no title, and a cover with abstract colors. My guess is that it's an art book, since Carson was an art geek. Maybe geek isn't a nice way to put it. I walked up to Carson, and usually he'd say a simple hi to me, but today it seems as if he wasn't even interested in talking to me, or even looking at me, which is extremely odd for him. If it came from Jack, I would understand, but this is Carson, an incredibly nice guy who can hardly be mean to anybody. Well, as long as you don't poke at his art too much. That was an experience that I will never forget. Hey Carson, how's it going? Carson didn't say anything. He just continued to read his book. But I did notice that he flinched when I started to talk, and he clearly knew I was here. I was starting to feel worried. I thought I did something to upset him. I asked, "Is everything all right, Carson?" He closed the book gently and turned to me and asked, "Could you just go away? I don't want to talk to you." Obviously, this wasn't normal, so I asked Dan, is everything alright? This time I was a little bit more concerned than before. Carson then snapped at me. Everything is fine. The only thing that isn't fine is you. So leave and never talk to me again. And then heard footsteps behind me. A whump, bum, 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 bum. I turned around and saw Jack, who was hanging his head low. For the first time in 2 weeks, spoke to me in a voice that was barely audible. I agree with them. It'll be best if you just go. His voice was deep and had a hint of sorrow mixed with it. I was in a state of shock. I don't know if this was some sort of joke or if it was real. A normal person would be able to take this well, but I am far from normal. I only have 2 friends, and now they're gone. And for the entirety of my life, I had to deal with so much stress. Oh, God, my head. My body refused to think, and time around me slowed as my vision blurred and a light, high-pitched ring played out in my head. Prosane. This isn't normal. I'm not prone to things like these. Am I having a stroke or something? I don't know, do you smoke? They started to speak again, but every word they said was muffled to the point where I could not understand a single syllable they spoke. Just a loud pitch, almost ear-bleeding beep. It felt like hours passed, but in reality only a few seconds passed. I felt sick, and my head was starting to throb. My feet felt numb to the point where they could be chopped off and I wanted to feel it, which in turn made it hard to walk. Suddenly I remembered, ah! This isn't the first time something like this happened to me. In fact, this is the second. Last time this happened, I was stabbed in the shoulder, but it wasn't like this for long because I passed out soon after. A voice spoke out to me, a voice that made me tremble a bit.
Come to me.
I don't remember much about the voice, but it was a scary moment. I was able to move at that moment, so I began to walk towards Math Hall, ignoring what they were trying to say to me, and just continued moving. Their voices were starting to hurt me physically, and my scar on my shoulder ached badly, as if the stab from before was repeating over and over again. My balance was terrible, and I could barely walk without stumbling, which made me look stupid or drunk, but thankfully no one was around. I need to find someplace quiet, I said, trying to hear my own voice, but failing because of the high-pitched ring, which was now loud enough to drown out all other noise. I didn't really understand what I meant when I said that. I just wanted to try to wait it out. Most of the time when I'm stressed, I usually just find a quiet place, wait until it passes over. I guess the bathroom was the only place quiet enough for now. The hallway would soon be filled with people, and they couldn't see me like that. There was a bathroom to the left of me, about 20 feet away. I tried walking over to the bathroom, but I stumbled and fell to the ground. I should have acted like a stupid drunk. Suddenly, then a hand reached out towards me. I looked up and saw a blonde-haired girl that looked to be around my age. She had dark green eyes and was a little shorter than me, by a few inches. I saw her speak, but I couldn't make out anything except for the words "are" and "okay." Jeez. You're just missing one key word there. Obviously, it's potato. Are potatoes okay? Anyway, the woman then grabbed my hand and pulled me up to my feet, and almost as suddenly as it began, my body started to calm down. And the loud pitch ringing has left. The young lady asked me again in a cheerful voice to put my mind at ease, because my character's a frickin' simp. Are you okay? You just fell down. I wanted to see if everything was alright. Let's read that line again. Okay. Don't criticize me, okay?
Are you okay? You just fell down.
Oh, no, hang on. 1 second.
Oh my.
Here we go.
Are you okay? You just fell down. I wanted to see if everything was alright.
I said while brushing off some non-existent dirt from my shirt, trying my best to drift the tension from my face. Yeah, I'm fine. I just had a moment there. You did not speak like that. I'm just in the moment. Even though I didn't really care that she saw me, I was still confused by her presence because I'd never seen her around before, and I'm pretty sure I would at least remember such a cute girl, in my opinion at least. Yeah, let me tell you something. No, you wouldn't, because you only know two people. Anybody could walk up to you and say, "Hey, do you remember me?" And if they're not Carson or Jack or anybody from your family, you would just be all like, "Who are you?" Asked her the simplest of simple questions. Are you new here? I never seen you around before. The young teen smiled and then said,
Yeah, I'm new to this school. Really just trying to get a lay of the land before school starts.
I nodded. I did the same thing when I got here. Oh, really? So did I. And I can assume the majority of you at home did too, if you're in high school. The girl then extended her hand and said,
My name's Lucy. I hope we get to become good friends in the days to come.
Ah, yes, good morrow. My name is Lucy the Fifth. I hope within the morrows and the afternoons and whatever else sounds medieval, as we are to become the greatest of friends. I shall slay an enemy for you. Slashy slash. Now, kill him. Well, Damon, that's my name, I said, shaking my hand. I also hope for the same thing. By the way, what school were you from? She replied immediately, almost as if it was scripted. I went to a private school somewhere a few cities to the east. My dad fell on the job here, and so we moved. Does that satisfy your curiosity? No. It's only a few cents. What was the private school called? Who is your father? What kind of job did he get? Why is my character spontaneously attracted to you? Those are questions that need to be answered. Sorry I said I there. This is in first person. I kind of just was in the character. Whatever. I nodded and then told her that I had to get ready for class. Yes, because that's the one thing on its mind. Oh boy, nearly had a mental breakdown there. Oh no, I think I'm gonna puke. Gets over it. Well, time for algebra 2. Gotta learn my numbers. What? I didn't know we studied this. When the hell did we start this? Alright, the first class I had was just math, basic trigonometry. I'm not an expert, but I'm able to manage with mainly B's or C's. Bruh, I wish I could do that. Mainly because the teacher really doesn't care all too much and simply says, if it looks good, if it looks like you tried, I'll give you points. Just don't write down anything stupid or inappropriate. I was thankful for a little bit that I got in class before anyone else, because frankly I need some time to process what had happened. I walked into the class and sat down in the back and replayed the events that happened today. First, I got to school and talked to Carson, who didn't want me to talk to him ever again. That's a -1. Then I went through that entire little bit and fell to the ground. That's another -1. And finally, I met a girl named Lucy, who seemed pretty nice. That's a +1. So, 2 cons and a pro. Not starting off good today. No. And, if someone were to kidnap you, that'd be like a -5. I realized that my shoulder was starting to sting a bit, or as if the ache from earlier was intensifying. So I checked the scar, but I couldn't find the scar. It was gone. Its place was smooth, healthy skin, with no scar. None at all. What seemed even weirder was the skin that replaced it looked like it was glowing. But if it wasn't there, why was it stinging? And more importantly, what happened? I then realized it was 8 a.m. Class should be starting soon, but something was telling me to go out and go home while I still could. Yes, like random internal thoughts.
God from the heavens speaks. Go out, go home, before it's too late.
Damon's over here just like, yeah, I'm a nut. I don't know why, but I didn't listen and decided to stay. Nothing bad could really happen, right? Right. Nothing bad could really happen here, right? Well, I mean, obviously the school shooting could happen, or a bomb could go off, or, well, yeah, I suppose a few things could go wrong. Now I'm curious. Yes, because all teenagers would be curious. Huh. I did see that one introvert carrying a gun earlier. Instead of running, I'm curious to see what he does with it. Maybe he's just playing poker with it. I bet my gun. A few people started to enter class, and immediately they noticed me and started to chuckle a bit. However, it wasn't normal laughing. It felt a little forced. Like, I was a little confused by this, but I assumed it was only from being early, so I dismissed it and for a bit and just said, so what? I'm early. It just means I'm more responsible than you. Yeah, that's the right thing to say to people just randomly laughing. Not, why are you laughing? How are you laughing? What is laughter? Who are you people? What are you doing in my house? Get out! Get out of my house! Then it started to become full-on laughter, steadily getting louder and louder as people entered. I was starting to feel a bit uncomfortable and slightly concerned, so I asked, sort of frantically, trying to get their attention, what's so funny? Did I do something wrong? What's going on? To each question, the result was louder laughter. He now knows what it's like to be a comedian. I was starting to become upset. I don't want this random teenager to get upset. And the ringing started to slowly return. After another 10 minutes, the ringing drowned out the laughter. Jeez, he survived that for 10 minutes. Good God. 10 minutes of ha ha ha, ha ha ha, ha 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 ha, ha ha ha. Just take a moment. 10 minutes. The ringing drowned out the laughter, but I still felt the laughter, and my mind was getting worse and worse until I snapped. Like that. Anyway, suddenly I screamed at the top of my lungs with all my breath, making me a bit nauseated afterwards, and startling the other students as I ran past them. What a pro gamer move. People laughing at you? Scream your lungs off. They won't be laughing at you anymore. I started to run as fast as I could down that math hall, towards the entrance, and before I reached the end of the hall, I saw Lucy again, who shouted at me, breaking the ringing, once more, because this character has plot importance.
Stop! In the name of the law!
I slowed down and saw Lucy's concerned face, which made the ringing instantly stop. Sir, what's going on? She asked me concerned. I respond with a frantic. I responded with a frantic. Anyway, I just need to leave. I can't take it. Yes, it's the same for me at school. I necessarily didn't happen, though. Lucy saw how upset I was and began to reach into her pocket. Like she was prepared for this. I know it isn't much, but please. She pulled out a white stone and said,
She pulled out a stone?
Don't hurt yourself. This stone should help. I assume your stress is from other people, so please, just try not to think of them right now. That's totally what a normal person would say. Hey, everybody else that was laughing at you, just white stone I picked up from the ground. just take it. Just take it. She forced the stone into my hand, smiled, then left. What awkward interaction. Oh, this stone? Yeah, I bought it at the dollar store for $1. Just take it. I don't know how, but she made me feel a lot calmer, which slightly concerned me. But what would a stone do in the first place? It's just a rock. What I held in my hand was a simple white stone. It had some grooves, but it was nonetheless solid, and just a rock. For now. I walked down the math hall, trying to remain calm as I opened the door to the study hall and stopped for a minute. I muttered to myself, trying to look on the bright side of things. At least I met her, and she was nice. But I should be careful around her. Never know if she's trying to trick me or not. Character does not sound like that. But, come on. At least that's what I thought at first. But then I thought, what does she get for faking it? Nothing. Still, she could be doing a prank, bro. I walked towards the door outside, but before I left, I decided to not come back here until things settle down. Yes! Absolutely. If only students could really do that. Just up and say, yeah, I'm not going to go to school. Yeah, I'm done. I ain't going to come back. It's a choice. Will that happen? I don't really know. But I hope sometime soon. Soon at least. I want to know what I did to make Carson and Jack upset with me. I opened the door to the outside world and left the school, trying my best to shake off the bad memory and instead trying to decide between going back to my room or going to a hospital to see what that entire thing was about. You hear that? Finally having logical thoughts. He's becoming sentient. I decided that the hospital was closer. Some days the hospital's like 5,000 miles to the east, but today he decided it will be a brief walk. Okay, and I should have enough money to pay a hospital bill, and my rent, thanks to the tip. I'm gonna miss out on a bag of chips, though. Well, that's true sadness. But nonetheless, I should just see if there was something wrong with me. What happened earlier today was something I didn't think I was going to have to go through again, especially not after experiencing something like that. The hospital was about 2 miles to the east, and usually it was not busy. Usually. I started to walk to the east quickly, trying to get away from the school without drawing too much attention from bystanders. Yes, because random people make the hike to the school. Anyway. I began to walk down a gravel road. I stared at the white stone Lucy gave to me. It was incredibly smooth until the big cold. Why did she give it to me? The stone was pretty much just a stone, but if Lucy gave it to me, I should at least keep it for now and see what the deal with it was. Maybe it was some sort of camera, and Lucy was secretly testing something for the government. Maybe you need to lay off the theories for a bit. I mean, I don't see a lens or anything. Here, just take this rock. It's a camera. Don't ask why. I continued to walk on the gravel road, the soles of my shoes making a loud crunch when I pressed my full weight onto the small stones. The wind was light and complemented the warmth of the sun, which shone brightly. Shone, not shined. I don't like that word. Next time I have to write words that shone could be used, I'm writing shined, because I prefer it against my skin. And that was saying a lot for me because I honestly prefer cold instead of the heat. Most of the time in this city, it's cold. I let out a slight sigh as I walked, trying to ignore what happened. But I don't think it works like that. What did I do? I muttered as I walked. I started to remember a little bit about the scar. I felt as if there was something about that incident that I might have just overlooked, and maybe it had something to do with why I had this moment. I hate it when Google tries to insist on fixing this. Like, if you take a closer look at the quotation marks, see how that one's smooth? How on that one's like jagged? I hate it when they do that. I know it's not going to affect the book or anything, but still, it's annoying. All right, flashback. It was 4 years ago when I was 13. Because that's how math works. I was with my mom. Because that's how children work. My mom was pretty light-skinned. I could have just said my mom was pretty. And she had the same grewish. She had the same grewish. She had the same grayish blue eyes like I had. She had her hair tied up in the ponytail, which reached her neck. Brown, like me. I think I already said that. Whatever. I remember we left the store at that moment, and we were trying to find a way home. I was carrying 2 bags filled with supplies and food, which weren't heavy. Still, it managed to slow me down a bit. Night was starting to fall at the moment, and my mom really didn't like being out at night. She never really told me why, though. So she took a shortcut through an alley. Yes, what all normal people do.
Ah, gonna be 30 minutes late for my appointment. Better take this inconspicuous alley. Nobody will. Oh, hello there, complete stranger. Oh, well.
Let's see where I was. A pretty shady one at that. Yeah. I should have said the joke after that. But in this town, most of the time, the worst that could happen in an alleyway was some simple sexual harassment or maybe drug dealings. The alley was about 20 feet wide.
That's a pretty big alley. You sure it's at a ballroom? Where's the curtains? That's pretty big for an alleyway. I'm not gonna lie.
And the walls were brick. Old, and to be honest, had we even leaned on them, they might have collapsed. Well, I started to walk into the alleyway. My mother was talking about my father. At the time, he was working at his job as a software engineer. Goodness, that's an achievement. A few miles to the west. Though I never really paid much attention to what he did because he rarely even talked about his job. And the times he did talk about it, it was just some nonsense thing about a minor issue. But after a while, he quit and got a new job. I don't quite recall what it was at the moment. We were halfway into the alley when I started to feel uneasy. Oh, goodness me. Uneasy in an alleyway? What blasphemy! Why, alleyways are only the second most safe thing to be in. Why, you walk down an alleyway, you're practically in God's heaven. You're practically invincible. You're indestructible. Those others trying at you like 5 minutes ago, well, they came off your chest. What the hell do you mean you just started feeling uneasy? As we continued into the alleyway, a chill went down my spine as I heard someone approaching rapidly. Oh, wait. That was me using my hands. I mean, I could just do that, but I don't know. I quickly turned and saw a man running towards my mother with a knife in his hand that was slightly stained with rust. Oh, no!
Not the rust! She's gonna get tetanus! It wasn't the first time I saw this man. It was the second. Oh no! The first time I saw him was when I learned the world is not all happy. You mean at puberty? Oh dear God! No, not the puberty! Whatever. I was 5 back then. I decided to leave the house and wander outside and go into the town, which was closer because my family lived nearby. As to how I managed to get out, I don't really recall. Moment of silence. Please, please, please. Can we get a moment of silence for the death of his parents' parenting skills? Just imagine his mother is all like just talking to a friend. It's just like, oh, the baby's gone. So yeah, about that deal the other day. I may have walked through some alleys and ended up getting lost. But then I heard a woman's voice through the alleyway and went towards where the voice was. Out of being the curious child that I was at the age of 5, what I saw was a woman getting stabbed by that man. Then I stabbed her first in the chest, and then the head, and finally in the right leg, the most vital spots of all people. You get stabbed in the head. That's minor inconvenience. Get stabbed in the chest? Ouch. But you dare get stabbed in the right leg? Oh dear God, you're gonna die. The man wore a black overcoat that covered his legs, and he had on black gloves, all sneaky-like. He looked to be in his 40s, with black messy hair that flowed back when he ran. And in the rain, it glowed as the water droplets dripped off his black veins. He stared to the sky and screamed, "I'm the man of you!" With black messy hair, and his eyes were red, dark red, that instilled fear in me. Oh dear God, he's got a case of the emo. It was odd. Even though I changed dramatically from that, I didn't develop any PTSD. Except you did. I must be a bit lucky. But I did suffer through some minor mental issues, like PTSD. First thing my parents noticed was that I was a lot less happy to be around strangers. Even though strangers were part of my family, I distanced myself from other kids whenever I started school, causing me to be a lot more antisocial. Hell, I've been asked to go to the counselor's office so many times that we knew each other practically as if we're friends. Oh, hello there. Are you the child? Are you the child that doesn't play with the other children? Yes. We're gonna be bestest of friends, you and I. And every now and then I would remember that night. It's the earliest memory I can remember. All of that man murdering that poor woman. Listen, you don't know that woman's life. Maybe she asked to be killed. Oh, random man, over there in the alleyway. I see that you're carrying a knife. Yes, it's my lucky hunting knife. May you stab me with it. Why? Because I want to die. Okay. The same man was there and was running towards my mother. I didn't know why, but I blocked him in his path and made him change plans. Instead of stabbing me, he had to go file his stock portfolio. Yes. I see recently you have invested in gold. That went down 5%. No, put the knife down. You can't murder stocks. He stabbed me instead in the left shoulder, which paralyzed my arm for that moment. Just that moment. Like mere moments later, he just brushed it off, punched the man in the face. Let's go. Blood was running from my shoulder, and I started to lose vision. Yes. We all know that feeling. Getting stabbed in the left shoulder, losing your vision. Yep. Number one cause of
losing consciousness, being stabbed in the shoulder. You know, it doesn't even have to be close to the heart. It's just a knife, head on the shoulder. Well, I guess I'm gonna go unconscious. Bye. With the energy I had left, I screamed, barely audible, towards my mother. Run, mother, run as fast as you can. My body started to go limp, and then my vision completely faded. All white. The ringing in my ears echoed out. Then that's not fading. The author's rant. You can't say your vision faded if all you see is all white. That's being encompassed. What? And then my vision faded. Yeah, that means you're seeing nothing but black. That makes sense for some reason. Why put any effort at all when you can just say, my vision faded until black. Until the black is night. One quick check. How much longer we got of this? Oh boy. Oh boy. Alright. We got 15 more pages to go. Wee. Brief shout out moment to myself. Who else? My name is Rick Relgia. You can find me on YouTube under the name Rick Relgia. I am an author with some years of experience. I don't know why I have to tell you this. I just feel that it'd be necessary so that way you guys know who you're talking to. And yes, you may see this video on YouTube or Amazon. That being said, please give me your honest opinion. For all those people planning to read my books, I want you to give me your full opinion. I don't care how cool it is. I just want some criticism. Now, there's a way you can be nice about your criticism, but if you just want to say, I didn't like it because the character reminds me of a potato, then I'll be like, oh, okay. Thank you. Next time I'll make sure my characters look like carrots. But you get what I'm saying. If you guys want me to do like a legitimate, just like read from start to finish, like a legitimate demo of what I've done, then please just tell me. I know that's kind of weird coming from me. I'm the one that's doing this in the first place. But really, what I'm doing is I'm just trying to reach out to my community. And I'm trying to, be different. I'm trying to show you guys that I'm a fun author to be around. I want you guys to not think of authors as very scary and serious people. Yeah, I'm here. I'm freaking 17 years old. And I still am just trying my best. Yes, I wrote that many pages. But you know what? You know what writing can't fix? My empty soul. Anyway, so, yeah. If you guys just want to see some random stuff that I post on YouTube, maybe like take some time and just get to know my other personas, then yeah, check me out. And to those people that are coming from my YouTube channel, hey, you got to deal with my base personality, because I ain't doing the mask voices. Not exactly yet. However, I shall make one-off reference. Then this will be the reference. Okay.
All right, that was my reference. All right. Sorry. And the jump scare of the century goes to